All right, Unit 6, Lesson 6 on conditional relative frequency. Okay, so some vocabulary. Frequency is a number stating how many times something occurs. That's just the number from the table. Relative frequency we did in the last lesson, which was the percent out of the total, like the grand total. And we did that by finding frequency over the total times 100. Now we're looking at conditional relative frequency. So what that is out of a specific type of total, such as the total of males or the total of people who picked SUVs. So, for example, if you could have a new vehicle, would you want an SUV or a sports car? Okay, so this was what we looked at in Friday's lesson. But now let's look at the key difference between the wording in this one where it says what percent of the people surveyed are males who selected an SUV. Whereas this one is what percent of the males surveyed selected an SUV. The one I underlined in blue is out of all of the people, our grand total here. So that's like what we did in lesson 5, where you're using the 240 of the people, and you're looking for males who selected an SUV, which would be males SUVs right here, times 100 to make it a percent, and that would be 8.75%. Now we have what percent of the males. So our total here would be the total of males. So you're going to look at all the information about males. There were 60 males total that were surveyed. 21 of them chose an SUV. And here you would get 35% of the males chose an SUV, whereas only 8.75% of all the people were males who picked an SUV. So what we just found in pink is the conditional relative frequency. That's based on the total number of males. It's on a specific total, not the grand total. And it's a similar formula. It's just that instead of the total on the bottom, you have the condition of interest total, such as the total of males. All right, so this was the relative frequency table from lesson 5, where we found it based on the grand total. Now, let's make a two-way conditional relative frequency table based on gender. So this would just be based on the number of males. So, looking at our table, for males, there's 60 males, and 21 of them chose an SUV. So that would give us 35%, which we just did on the last page. Okay, and then let's do males who picked a sports car. Well, that's going to be this 39 out of the 60 males times 100 gives us 65%. 35% plus 65% totals to being 100% of the males. And if you weren't sure, you could take that 60 males out of 60 males times 100 will give you that 100%. Okay, now let's look at females. Females are all right here. There's 180 total females. How many chose an SUV? 135. And that's going to give us 75%. Now, right away, you should be thinking if there's 100% total, this must be 25%. 75 plus 25% makes 100, but just to show you, it's 45 females chose a sports car out of 180 females total. And sure enough, if you put that in your calculator, you will get 25%. Oh, and then our total we'll just do as well. So there was 180 females surveyed out of 180 females, which would give you 100%. So, do more women prefer sports cars than men? Explain your reasoning. So if you're looking at the sports cars, 25% of the females chose sports car, so much more chose an SUV. Whereas for the males, much more chose a sports car, 65%. So for our hot problem, do more women prefer sports cars than men? The answer is no, more men prefer. More men prefer sports cars than women because only 25% of the women chose sports car, while 65% of the men chose sports car. All right, so now we have 5 more practice problems. So what percent of the 8th grade students prefer snowboarding? So it's of the 8th grade students preferring snowboarding. So we're going to look at our 8th grade students, and 140 of them prefer snowboarding. So that would be 140 out of 260 8th grade students total, gives us 53.8461538. The 8 tells the 3 to go up 1, so 54%. What percent of the 7th grade students prefer snowboarding? So here's our snowboarding number. Out of our total, number of 7th grade students, and when you calculate that, you're going to get 54.16, and the 1 tells the 4 to stay the same. So 54% again. So whether you're in 7th grade or 8th grade, it looks like about 54% of students prefer snowboarding. Students were given the opportunity to take a college placement math test. So we have students who took the review course, students who didn't, and what math they were placed into. So what percent of the students who placed in Math 200 took the review course? So we're looking for all the students who were placed in Math 200. So we're looking at this set of data. Took the review course would be these students, and these would be our total. We're just looking at the students who were placed in Math 200. 40 took the review course out of 50. And that would give us 80%. What percent of the students who did not take the review course, should be this one in blue, were placed in Math 50? So now we're looking at the students who did not take the review course. That's all of these students. We have our total, and we have our students who were placed in Math 50. 15 out of 40 times 100 is going to give us 37.5. Rounded to the nearest percent would be 38%. All right, let's look at number 3. The Ecology Club was planning to take a field trip to Seacoast or the mountains, and they have surveyed based on 7th graders and 8th grade students. What percent of the 7th grade students prefer Seacoast? So let's look at all the 7th grade students. We have the ones who chose Seacoast out of our total for 7th grade. So 42 out of 70 times 100 brings us to 60%. What percent of the students who prefer the mountains are in 8th grade? So let's look at all the students who prefer the mountains. And we have 50 in 8th grade out of 78 students who preferred the mountains. And that brings us to 64.1025641, which rounds to 64%. Okay, and then lastly, we have 58th grade students at Woodland were asked if they agree or disagree with a proposal. So what percentage of the students are girls who agree with the proposal? So we have to look at all the students, because it just says of the students. This is like one from lesson 5, the relative frequency. Girls who agree with the proposal. Girls who agree, 16 out of 50 of all the students. It's out of the grand total. That's going to give us 32%. What percentage of the boys, we have to look at all our boys, agree with the proposal? Boys who agree with the proposal, that would be 9 that agree out of the 30 total boys, which is going to give us 30%. Okay, and then grab another color. What percentage of the students are boys? So this one is of the students are boys who disagree with the proposal. So we're looking at our 50 again. Boys who disagree with the proposal would be this 21. And that gives us 42%. And then lastly, what percentage of the boys disagree with the proposal? So again, we're looking at the boys again. Our total for the boys is 30. Disagree with the proposal would be that 21. And that's going to bring us to 70%. All right.